Welcome back, Sports Pantomaths, on this awesome National Championship Monday. I'm so excited for the game today. This is one of the most evenly matched up national championships I can remember in a long time. What a day it's going to be and what a game it's going to be. Joe Burrow versus Trevor Lawrence. I think it's going to be something for the ages that we're going to look back and be like, man, two great quarterbacks dueling out. It's going to be just a great game to watch, and I'm very excited for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just give you my little analysis of what I think how the game's gonna go, and who I got winning the game. So first, I just want to kind of look at the matchup. So the teams match up very evenly. Both teams have good quarterbacks, which will be the number one pick in this year's draft, and I think next year's number one pick in the draft, it'll be Joe Burrow versus Trevor Lawrence, which wow, just two great quarterbacks who I think will have tremendous careers, not only in college, but also in the pros. Both feature great running backs. We got on one side is Edwards Hilaire Edwards, something. I can't, don't got his full name. I'm going to Google exactly what it is. But also for Clemson, we're going to have Travis Etienne, who is just Clyde Edwards Hilaire, LSU's running back. But then for Clemson, we have Travis Etienne, who's also just a dynamic back. Both of these guys should have great careers as well. Both teams feature great wide receivers. We have Justin Ross and T. Higgins, who have done nothing but perform at the college level. Great athletes, big wide receivers who I believe resemble the Texas wide receivers that gave LSU fits in the first and second half of that game. Those guys were able to jump up and go get the ball. However, I like Stingley, the cornerback for LSU, and Delpit. Those are two great defensive playmakers. Also, let's take a look at Trevor Lawrence. Oh, hold on. Before I get on Trevor Lawrence, both teams feature great tight ends, great O-line, and defensive playmakers, which I'm going to get to soon when I get to my prediction. Trevor Lawrence is undefeated in college football. I think he's 25-0 as a college football starter. Just that is insane to me. Hasn't lost a game since high school. Comes in his freshman year, does nothing but win. This year comes in, does nothing but win, and people are gonna try to dog him out. Maybe he did turn the ball over early in the year. However, I think he was just trying to be a playmaker and maybe do a little too much, and now he's settled in, and we see what he can do after he single-handedly pretty much took down Ohio State. Justin Ross, T. Higgins, and Travis Etienne are going to have to be difference makers in this game. However, I see a big dose of Trevor Lawrence running the football being the difference maker in this one as well. We saw him run the ball against Ohio State and how he was just able to, take over the game. Even though I believe Ohio State may have been the better team, Clemson had the guy who wanted to. It's hard to describe. He's just got this kind of trait that you can't describe. He just goes out there and he wins. He performs. He comes up in the biggest stages, and I love it. I love watching Trevor Lawrence go out there and play. I saw a cool quote the other day. Dabo compared them going to Louisiana to play LSU in the national championship to Rocky going to the Soviet Union to fight. Is it Ivan Drago in the Soviet Union? I thought that was a cool little analogy, and it is kind of like that. It's Clemson versus the world to a point where they're having to travel to Louisiana to play a team who's from Louisiana and just try to have to overcome that. I think both teams got a lot on the line. It's a national championship game. So Clemson's going to go in there with that mindset that they're the underdog, and it's them versus everyone. And they're kind of, I think, a 5.5 point dog. So Dabo knows how to get those guys ready to play when everyone's counting them out. An interesting matchup to stay tuned for, to watch for, especially in the game, is the LSU coordinators versus the experienced Clemson coordinators. Clemson's had the same coordinators for several years now, so they're familiar with, the players there, the systems. The players are familiar with the system. They haven't had really any big system changes over the last couple of years. And on the other side, you got LSU, who is bringing in a new system. However, it's looked just insane, almost like playing a video game. It looks like for LSU. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, all those guys out there, wide receivers. They just got athletes everywhere. Thaddeus Moss, not to mention, great tight end. watch the coordinators, Joe Brady versus the LSU. I mean, not the LSU, the Clemson defensive coordinator. I think it's Will Venables. Watch out for that matchup. I think that's going to be an interesting one. Whether who can win that matchup. A big thing I think you should look for is Clemson's bend but don't break mentality on defense. We saw it in the Ohio State game. Ohio State was able to just push the ball downfield. Justin Fields and those guys, they move the ball downfield. But Clemson would allow a field goal. If you're able to allow field goals in this kind of game, that's a win because both offenses are going to be able to move the ball. There's too many playmakers on offense that I don't see either one of the teams being able to stop the other one. I think it's more of a who can limit the team to field goals and not give up the big plays for touchdowns, which also Clemson did a great job of doing against Ohio State. I think the longest play that Ohio State had was a little over 20 yards, which, that's a big play offense. And LSU is a very big play offense. I mean, go watch the Oklahoma game, for example, the Georgia game as well, when they dominated. They're just a big play offense with just playmakers everywhere, great quarterback. It's one of the best offenses, if not the best offense I've seen in college football in I don't know how long. The difference maker, I think, in this game is going to be Isaiah Simmons. He's a Clemson linebacker. I see him making some big plays, maybe forcing a fumble, maybe getting a pick, something to where he's the difference maker of this game, and he comes up big for Clemson. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and give you my winner of the 2020 National Championship game for this year. First, I want to say, you heard Clemson prevents big plays. They bend, don't break. The red zone defense was huge for them against Ohio State. LSU brings in a bunch of guys who are just athletes all around the field on defense. Their defense is getting very hot at the right time. You got Joe Burrow, the number one pick, going to the Bengals. However, Trevor Lawrence has not lost a game since high school, and Clemson has not been dethroned yet. Their longest active win streak in college football. So until they are dethroned, I'm not picking against them. I'm going to pick, and while everyone's picking LSU, I've noticed a big trend this year in football has been when everybody picks one team, usually just go ahead and pick that other team and just see if you can get lucky at that point, because it seems to have happened often. I mean, we can look when I talk about it later. For example, the Titans versus the Ravens, that was huge. A lot of people were picking, Ravens to go all the way to possibly the Super Bowl, and the Titans came in. No one believed in them, and they said, we're going to go in and run the football and win this game. So when a lot of people are doubting a certain team, I'm just going to go ahead and roll with Clemson to win this one 38-33 in a close one. Clemson actually covers and wins it outright. So Clemson will be your 2020 National Football Champions, and Trevor Lawrence will continue to build his legacy, and we'll go to, I think, 26-0 as a college starter, which is just insane. Talking about, the college football playoff, I'm just going to go ahead and move straight into my next topics, which is the NFL playoffs. If you didn't watch the games over the weekend, I feel bad for you. Just tremendous games. I got up and started. I was watching a hockey game, so I was watching, on the Dish app on my phone for Saturday's games. And watching the Titans just bully the Ravens was insane. I picked the Ravens to win, so I was wrong, of course. However, I'm not mad at it. Derrick Henry was just insane. But let's start with the 49ers-Vikings game. The 49ers looked like a dominant team that we all thought of. They showed the running game with actually Tevin Coleman coming back, finally having a big game. I actually picked him up on my fantasy team, and all of a sudden, he stopped getting the carry. So then I had to go pick up that Mostart guy, or Mozart, whatever his last name is. Can't pronounce it that well. I need to work on that. But Tevin Coleman with a big game, 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards. Deebo Samuel, we saw him making a lot of big plays. We've mentioned him in our previous podcast on just all the playmakers that the 49ers have. That the biggest thing for the 49ers is they can get pressure with 4. And they also have playmakers in the secondary, Richard Sherman, of course. But when you can get pressure with 4, it just makes playing defense so much easier, especially when you can get, you're facing Kirk Cousins, who went back to the typical Kirk Cousins and, wasn't good in the big game. Jimmy G just has to do enough to not lose the game. So he has a very easy job. It's almost a game manager job, but he's doing the right things. He's making the right reads, right choices. So 49ers won 27-10, and I could have seen that one coming. So what a game by the 49ers defense, running game. Kyle Shanahan just a great coach, great play caller. Hopefully he doesn't blow another game like he did in the Super Bowl for you Falcons fans. Let's move on to the game I was talking about earlier, where the Titans went on the road as dogs to beat the Baltimore Ravens 28-12. Which I know a lot of you guys are out there hating on Lamar Jackson, so I want to just defend him for a minute. This is his second year in the league. Let's take a look around the league and let's look at other second-year quarterbacks. While some of them may stand out, for example, Pat Mahomes, however, this is his second year starting. He's just an anomaly. You won't see many more. I don't if you're ever another Patrick Mahomes, but Lamar Jackson almost had 500 yards of offense. While the 3 turnovers hurt, we got to remember they had some dropped passes. I think it was 6 or 7 drops. They're missing Mark Ingram, who was a huge part of their offense. That power running game, they need that. And if you want me to be honest, I think it's way more on the coaching staff than it is on Lamar Jackson. How Lamar Jackson has to throw the ball 50, I think it was almost 50 or 60 times in a game, blows my mind. He needs to be into the 20 to 30 range of passes, and he had 20 carries as well. They're putting all the pressure on Lamar. They gotta help him out. He's not a guy who can throw the ball 50 times and go win you a game. When you're down 14, why are you panicking and getting away from your offense? That makes no sense to me. Why are you not running the football? You've scored 40 plus running the football on teams. So just stick to it, trust your offense, and just trust the process and hang in there and know, hey, we're due. We're due for a big run right here. We're due. And all of a sudden, they start getting pass happy, going 5 wide or no one in the backfield with Lamar Jackson. All right, Lamar, go win us the game throwing the football, which credit to Vrabel, Titans head coach. He's perfect game planning. He strengthened or he game planned around Lamar's weakness. He said, we're going to force Lamar Jackson to throw the ball outside the numbers, not inside the numbers. And that's his weakness. He can't throw the ball really that well, be outside the numbers on those outside passes. He struggled there, and I think that's where he's going to work in his offseason. I'm still very excited for Lamar Jackson now. However, I think we're kind of seeing a little postseason hump similar to early in Peyton Manning's career, which, he had the postseason slump similar. So be patient, Ravens fans. Don't panic. This is Lamar's second year in the league. He almost had 500 yards of offense. I mean, he left it all out there on the field, and he gave it his all. So now let's move on to the Titans. How Derrick Henry oh my goodness, what a guy. He's averaging over 180 yards per game this postseason. I think he's got 3 straight games of over 180 yards, which is an NFL record. And the craziest thing is, could you imagine? Okay, it's one thing, he breaks a couple big runs. He's getting the ball 30 to 40 times a game. And defenses do not want to have to tackle 240 pounds, 6'3", running a 4.5, 40 times a game. And it's plain and simple. That's what it's coming down to. Is we got this big bell cow running it down your throat, running back, and we're going to pound it up your throat all game. And if you can tackle them 40 times, we're going to live with that. Ryan Tannehill's just having to do just enough to win the game. I heard earlier on the Pardon My Take podcast, he was Terry Bradshawing it, where you do just enough to win a Super Bowl. So I like the Titans. I like the direction they're going. I love the coach. The coach has just been unreal. Vrabel, former Patriot player. He did not come under the Bill Belichick coaching tree. He played for Belichick. So, one more thing about this game. Did you guys see the Derrick Henry Tebow pass? When I say I was in the hockey, that's when I saw in the hockey game, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, let's go! Like, dang, Derrick Henry with the jump pass. Like, I was not expecting it. What a play call! Shout out to the Tennessee Titans just coming in there and shocking the world, really, and showing, hey, you can still win with old school football. It's not about always scoring points. It's more about, can we run the football, control the clock, and play good defense and situational football, which the Titans did. Let's move on to the most exciting game I believe, of the weekend, which was the Chiefs versus the Texans. So the Texans, I don't know, for you guys who didn't watch, they jump off, I think, to a 21 or 24 to nothing lead in the first half. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oof, 24 to nothing on the Chiefs at Arrowhead? Are you serious? And then all of a sudden, Cole Hardman, former dog, comes out of nowhere with this just explosive return. And it just sparks the Kansas City Chiefs, and they just go on a tear. I'm pretty sure they scored at least 41 unanswered. You might want to fact check me on that. And I know for sure it's at least 41. It could have been more. But how you're down 24-0 in the first quarter, and then at halftime you lead at 28-24 is just a credit to Patrick Mahomes and that offense. Patrick Mahomes is just a talent that I don't believe we'll see again. He's the closest thing to Aaron Rodgers that I have seen. He is better, though, in my opinion. And I'm a Packers fan, Aaron Rodgers fan. I got an Aaron Rodgers jersey, but Pat Mahomes, he has the arm talent. I mean, he has just enough with his legs where he can be athletic and scramble and make some plays with his legs. And he has all the right traits you want as a quarterback who he can just, go down. He's a leader and he's a good guy and people love to be around him. He's transcending and he's the best quarterback in football. He's the guy you want to build your franchise around for the next 15 years. I mean, this is the start, I believe, of the Chiefs dynasty. As long as, they just got to have a decent offensive line and keep some of these playmakers around him. The Chiefs dynasty, I think, is starting this year. Last game, which is for my Packers, a win to finally make another attempt to make it back to the Super Bowl for Aaron Rodgers. This was a great game to watch. The Packers almost choked it away, which I was on the phone with one of my buddies during the game, and I was like, man, I think the Packers are going to blow it. I truly do. They jumped on them, but they didn't. They couldn't put the Seahawks away, and that's scary. You always want to just go ahead and put Russell Wilson away. You don't want to give him that chance to come back on you, and which he can always do. You never want to count him out. Aaron Rodgers is trying to build his legacy. He needs another Super Bowl to be into that GOAT talk. See, he has that one Super Bowl. However, since then he kind of regressed to a point, especially this season. He hasn't looked like the same dude, and he's wanting to see how he will be remembered. Will he be remembered as the guy who got McCarthy run out of town and kind of just was a waste of talent to a point, which, don't get me wrong, a lot of those years he didn't have a good defense around him. But, hey, it's Aaron Rodgers. This is the guy that we've said is the most talented quarterback that we've ever seen to date. And now I believe it's Pat Mahomes. But Pat Mahomes is like Aaron Rodgers 2.0, but better. There's unfortunate calls for both teams, so I really don't want to hear the Seahawks fans kind of saying, oh, that was a bad call. That shouldn't have been a first down late in the game. First, I want to say that fumble early in the game, the Packers should have had the ball in your territory, and they would have gone up. I think it would have been 14-0 early. And then I really think they would have just stepped on the gas from that point on. I don't see it being a close game if that call stands, which how they could not view a clear recovery was awful. This has been the worst officiating I've seen in the NFL in all of my years. I've never seen it be this bad over the past 3 years. And they're just blowing calls. And you can watch the game and the people in New York, the dude, I think they got a blind guy up there trying to decide what's going on, because the first down that the Packers picked up didn't look like a first down either late in the game, in my opinion. I'm a Packers fan. I'm unbiased. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. I'm going to be real with you, and I'm going to be honest. That didn't look like a first down, and common sense shows the ball didn't get there. It didn't make it past that. You could see the little yellow line, but play stand. I'm like, what? Honestly, those are just two pivotal bad calls that, hey, you win some, you lose some, I guess. So Packers win 28-23, and just for you guys who didn't watch that Chiefs-Texans game, the final score was 51-31 Chiefs. Oof, what a blowout. Just a little bit for Russell Wilson for the Seahawks. He had a great game, almost won his first game at Lambeau, just didn't have the running game and stuff like that. I believe Lynch had, 12 carries for 30 yards, something like. He's just a little too old. Hey, great goal line runner, though. If you need that 1 yard, just go ahead and hand it to him. Speaking of football, I just want to kind of talk about college football news from the past couple weeks, which was just, I mean, it was a crazy week in college football news. When I've been during the week, when I take my notes, I'm just listening to the sports shows, getting updates on my phone, reading articles. And I just type in little points on my phone in my notes. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna kind of try to talk about this in my next podcast. However, I just want to start with Georgia and Cade Mays. So for you guys who out there who haven't heard the news, which it's kind of been everywhere, uh, former Georgia offensive lineman Cade Mays transferred to Tennessee. Wasn't the biggest deal. I wasn't the biggest Cade Mays fan, if you want me to be honest. I didn't like the way he committed to Georgia in the first place. I think he picked up a Tennessee hat and threw it or something. It's just, I don't agree with that. I wouldn't, not my style. I don't think it's that big of a deal for us dog fans. Yes, we're going to lose a little bit of depth at the offensive line, but we're also reloading with talent every year. I think Kirby and those guys really recruit offensive and defensive line really well and develop talent very well. Broderick Jones is going to be a great name out there to possibly replace him once we pick him up, which I believe we will. And did Cade Mays impress you guys against Baylor? Because, I mean, he had his chance to go out there and show, hey, I'm a starter for this football team next year, especially at the tackle position. And he wasn't impressive. So I say we let him go to Tennessee. It's okay. You go 7-5, 8-4 at Tennessee, and you come to Athens this year to come get thumped. Because Georgia's going to put it on Tennessee this year. You heard it here first in Athens. They're not playing no game. Tennessee's got so much hype, and I think Georgia's going to feel a little disrespected when Tennessee comes there, and they're going to want to give it to their former teammate. It's one thing you leave Georgia and you go, to a out of the conference school to go get some playing time. I'm all for that. I think personally, I have it written down right here what I think should happen for transfers, and I think this should be the rule. It seems as if athletes are kind of trying to find loopholes to get early playing time. And I have no problem. For example, Justin Fields, him leaving Georgia to go to Ohio State, he's leaving the conference and he's going to a better job to a point where he can get playing time. I don't have a problem with him getting instant eligibility. I truly don't. But when you're going to transfer to an in-conference rival and in division in the conference rival, I got a little bit of a problem with that. Even if it is his hometown and his former favorite team, I don't. That's wrong. I think you should have to sit out the year if you go to an in-conference opponent, and if you go out of the conference, you get instant eligibility. This gives kids a chance to go somewhere, to get playing time early, get recognized, and I think it works for everybody. That's my personal opinion. Which, speaking of the transfer portal, let's go ahead and talk about this new quarterback, Jamie Newman from Wake Forest. For you guys who haven't seen him, go watch some highlights of him. He's very impressive to me. He brings a new dynamic to the Georgia offense. He's going to be surrounded with some great playmakers, Pickens, these wide receivers coming in. I think he's going to fit the offensive line perfect. While early it may look a little shaky on the offensive line, bringing in, I think, three or four new starters, possibly. I mean, it's going to be a different looking offensive line. However, Jamie Newman brings the ability to move around a little bit. He's mobile. He can use his legs, and that's something we haven't had at Georgia really since Aaron Murray, but this guy's more athletic than Aaron Murray was. Also, one of his strengths is throwing the deep ball, and I think Georgia caught a lot of deep passing plays this year. Go watch it. I mean, watching the games personally, I saw a lot of deep passes, but I think a lot of deep passes with better playmakers than Fromm had is going to lead to a big season for Jamie Newman this year for the Dogs. Mark Richt came out and said he thinks he's going to be the best quarterback in the SEC. That is huge praise from a former ACC coach. Better playmakers, better O-line around him than at Wake Forest. I think he's going to have a huge year, and his mobile ability is going to be able to mask a gelling offensive line early in the season. Also, shout out to Jake Fromm, who helped recruit this guy. Damn good dog, Jake Fromm. I've been critical of how he played this year. I think, like I said, he regressed a little, but also he did not have the playmakers around him or really the play calling to his strengths for him to have a successful season. Shout out to him for helping recruit Newman to Georgia. After he declared for the draft, he was like, I'm going to help find my replacement. What a guy, what a dog, and I wish nothing but the best for him in the draft. And if you want to be honest, I see him if Brady returns to the Patriots, I have him going to the Patriots probably about the third round. Very cerebral guy, similar to Brady, and he could be. I think Belichick can. I mean, there's mentioning he can win with Andy Dalton. I mean, let's just go ahead and give it to Jake Fromm and see if they can have a young guy come in and learn from Brady, who already has a very high football IQ. But just he needs some fine tunes in his game to where he's hitting guys more in stride and stuff like that. I think he's gonna have a great. I mean, personally, I see him more as a backup in the NFL, but I want nothing but the best from him. I'd love to see him thrive in a New England system that can help him out. Speaking of Brady, I'm going to get on him later. Got some cool little topics about him in a little bit coming up. Last thing about the college football news is how excited I am for this newest Egg Bowl in college football. I'm already excited for the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State and Ole Miss. You got two of the craziest personalities in college football, Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin. Two guys who honestly just like, what in the world is he thinking, or what in the world is he doing? I'm so excited about both those hires because it brings so much hype to those programs. And I think that it's good when all the teams, I want all the teams to be good. Even if I don't like the team, I want them to be good. I want to watch good games every single week, week in, week out. I want to see the best of the best play the best. And I think the SEC is starting to get the top-notch coaches. They get the top-notch players, and you're about to see just the SEC start beating up on each other again like it was a couple years ago back when Dak was at Mississippi State and stuff like that. I think Mike Leach is going to bring a system that, while many D coordinators say it's easy to prepare for, something the SEC hasn't seen really yet. So it's going to take some adjusting to get to. But here's what I have in my notes. If those teams are in contention every, say, 3 to 4 years, you mix in an upset here and there over Alabama, Auburn, LSU. A&M is on the come up. Watch out for A&M. They're going to be a big team to mess with over the next couple of years with Jimbo. Add in a couple upsets of those teams every year, and say they go a 10-2 season where they're in contention, maybe make the SEC championship, 11-1 every year and now and again. But if they're in contention every 3 to 4 years, that's a success for these programs. That's going to bring in great recruits. It's going to give a public spotlight to these schools, which are great college towns. Like, it's gonna be so much fun to watch Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin coach against each other for Mississippi, and the recruiting battles that's going to go on. I think both of these hires are great for the state of Mississippi, great for the coaches, great for the players, and I'm excited for the most unpredictable Egg Bowl in I don't know how long. So Mike Leach versus Lane Kiffin. Shoot in the comments or an email and tell me which hire you like better and why. I'd love to hear about it. Speaking of hiring news, I'm going to go ahead and move straight to this NFL. And I'm just going to start with the one coaching hire that there's a couple, but I'm just going to focus mainly on one because this one just blew my mind. I'm sitting here and my phone goes off. There's a sports update and it says Joe Judge to the New York Giants as head coach. And I said, who? Who in the hell is Joe Judge? I've never heard of this dude. And I'm like, I'm getting on Google and seeing what in the world he has done and who he is. So for you guys that don't know and haven't heard any of this news, Joe Judge was the special teams coordinator and the wide receiver coach of the Patriots, which they've always had a good special teams unit, thanks to a couple standout players, I believe, and they were well coached on special teams. He's also the wide receivers coach. Can you tell me the last time the Patriots developed a good wide receiver that they drafted? They don't. They don't draft receivers well, and they don't develop them that well. Their best receiver was one undrafted guy who used to play quarterback, Edelman, and they have a tight end who had a tight end who was just physically bigger, better, and stronger than everyone else, Gronk, who is gone. I'm not a big hire. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the hire. I think they had a lot better options out there, more experience, and guys who just have, I saw the Joe Judge interview, and I mean, you guys are getting excited about it. It's an interview. What success does he have? And don't get me wrong, I'm not a hater. Like, I want all the teams to be good. I want all NFL teams to have it. What is fun about dysfunctional? Tell me, like, could you sit here and watch a Jets versus Bengals game? It's tough to watch. It's just tough to watch. Bengals versus Redskins. Try to watch that the whole entire, like, try to watch that one game for 3 hours straight. Dysfunctional and bad teams just aren't that fun to watch. I was shocked to see who in the world Joe Judge was and how he got a job, but that's the Giants believe that they got their guy, so we'll see how he mixes with. Hey, and he's coming into a good situation. Young quarterback, Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones. He's got Saquon Barkley, so he's got some wide receivers. Evan Ingram, tight end. He's got players to around him to kind of build for the future. So we'll see if Joe Judge has success as a New York Giants head coach. Also in NFL news, last podcast you may have heard, I predicted Tom Brady possibly going to the Dolphins. I just want to highlight a couple of other teams where I could see him going because I don't. It's possible that he goes to the Dolphins, but I think there's a lot of possibilities out there right now. One of them is Tom Brady to the Raiders. Watch out for this mainly because John Gruden and Derek Carr have not seemed to get along well. They don't mix well, don't mesh together. I don't think Gruden likes Carr, and personally, I don't think I'm not. Who does really like Carr to a point? I mean, I like him, but it seems like just coaches think he's not the guy. So Tom Brady to the Raiders, goes to a new stadium in Las Vegas, helps them sell tickets. Comes in where he's gonna have a running game, good tight end, wide receivers, offensive line. I mean, John Gruden, great coach. I mean, that brings some hype to that team. And a new stadium, they got to sell tickets. So Tom Brady to the Raiders, that would not surprise me. Another one. We're thinking that Ryan Tannehill is going to get paid as a Tennessee Titan. But would it shock you if they brought in Tom Brady? Honestly, would it? Because hear me out. Brady and Vrabel played together in New England. And the Titans have every single thing that Tom Brady needs to be successful. They have the running game and the human tank, Derrick Henry. They have the playmakers on the outside, Corey Davis, A.J. Brown, wide receivers. They have an offensive line, a good defense, and I think that they fit well together. He gets to stay in the AFC, which he's known and playing against. He also gets to play against the Colts and the Jags, who have below average or about average quarterbacks, Jacoby Brissett, and whether it be Minshew or Nick Foles next year, I think. You get to play both of those teams twice a year. You get to battle out against the division against the Texans, Deshaun Watson, who, the Texans defense looks shaky and they can't stop the run. And who do you got? The best running back in football. Yes, you heard it here. Best running back in football is Derrick Henry. No argument. I don't care how he is catching the ball out of the backfield. You want to tackle a 6'3", 240-pound guy who can run a 4.5 40? No, you don't. And he's just changing the game. And I heard a comparison to Jim Brown, which, of course, I wasn't alive for Jim Brown, but I've seen his highlights, and he does remind me of a Jim Brownish type running back. I want to move to NBA because I've talked a little NBA, not too much, though, this season, or this season, this podcast episodes, all of them. So I want to start with LeBron. I'm a big LeBron fan. However, I'm realistic that I don't think he's the GOAT. You've heard, I've said Larry Bird is. However, I want to defend LeBron for a minute because how do you realize people are criticizing, for example, I'm going to go ahead and go after Skip Bayless right here. People criticize LeBron for wanting to play, for not doing load management like Kawhi Leonard and other NBA stars. What is wrong with wanting to go out there and play? I don't care if he's chasing records. I could care less if he wants to score more points than Kareem, have the most assists, have the most rebounds. That's what you're supposed to do, damn it. You're supposed to want to be the best and at the top. If you're a competitor, you want to be the best of the best in every single aspect. And I think that's what LeBron wants. It's not fair to get criticized for going out there and doing your job. I don't get how it's a bad thing to not have load management and to go play on a night. And this is my opinion about load management. Fans and me personally, I will go on StubHub and try to find tickets. For example, I was looking at Mavericks versus Hawks because I'm in the Georgia area. So I've been trying to find, when LeBron comes to Atlanta, Luka comes to Atlanta, and see, that's my problem with load management. When people are coming to town, I am trying to see that dude come and play. I can only imagine buying a Lakers versus Hawks ticket, which they could go for about $130 a piece. You never know. Now, could you imagine buying a ticket and then realizing, oh, LeBron's sitting out tonight for load management? Are you kidding? I would be devastated. And I think it's not fair to fans. I'm buying that ticket because I want to witness LeBron James' greatness or Luka Doncic's greatness. I want to see the best of the best play. And it's not fair for me as a fan to have to go to a game and then realize some dude's sitting out because he wants to rest. That's ridiculous. That one of the worst things I've ever heard, sitting out for load management. I'm huge against load management. If you're sick or you're hurt or you have a nagging injury, that's one thing. But to straight up give me the excuse of I'm not playing because of rest is absolutely awful. And I will continue to say that. I paid to go see a ticket because I want to see him play in person so I can witness it and one day tell my future kids or anyone who I can have a debate with about sports. Man, I got to witness LeBron James, one of the greatest players of all time, play in person. And that's what I'm going to the game for. So, big against load management. Shout out to LeBron for going out there and just putting in work every single night. And that's the kind of player he should be. Chase those records. I want him to break them. I think it'd be cool to witness. It's greatness that we get to see. You're not going to see another dude like that for a long, long time. Speaking of NBA, I want to start a little new topic here on Sports Pantomaths. Send in your comments. Send me an email if you disagree, or you can leave a comment in the live feed on YouTube or up under my video. Where do you think Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to end up next year? This is my topic. So I got 2 destinations that I'm going to start with, which I can give you 3 because I can see him staying in Milwaukee. But I want to start with, could Giannis go to the Warriors? I could definitely see it happening. I truly could. Go look at the Steph video of them 2 talking. I think you know how Steph recruits. You know how Draymond recruits. You know how Clay recruits. I see them making a run at Antetokounmpo, and could you imagine them 4 together to build the Warriors round 2 dynasty? Give it a 3 to 4 year run. You go get 3 championships. Could you imagine the legacy that they would have and the new arena? They got to sell those tickets. You can't have these kind of losing seasons that they're having right now with the new arena. D'Angelo Russell, I think, is a trade piece. They're going to move him for something. I don't know yet what, but he'll be gone after this year. He's more of a trade piece. And watch out for Antetokounmpo going to the Warriors to start the Warriors dynasty round 2. Another good fit. Oh, well, going off of that, people who say, oh, man, that's a super team. I don't want to see super teams. Yes, you do. Super teams make the NBA fun. How many NBA games have you watched this year? Honestly. I bet you watched more over the past couple years where there is a super team that is the villain. That's what makes the NBA so much fun. We find teams and players that we can't stand, and we go watch them, and we want to see them lose, and we want to see the other team. We're pulling for anybody but that team. I'll give you a couple examples. Miami Heat with LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. No one liked the Heat. They were the villain. And now there's not really a big villain. The Warriors with KD, Steph, Clay, unbeatable team, but people pulled against them because they're the super team. They're the villain. And that's what we want to see. We want to see who can knock off the super team, who can go get them. For example, Kawhi Leonard, even, for example, the whole Warriors team seemed injured, but, Kawhi Leonard took down the super team. Another good fit for Giannis, I believe, would be with the Mavericks. Imagine him, Porzingis, and Luka. That's a championship team, especially with some of the other players they have on contract. I'm not sure how long Tim Hardaway Jr. is there, but he'd be a good piece as well. First, this is going to be my first time talking MLB, which this podcast is going to be a lot on MLB once this football season ends. I love football season, probably my favorite season, but I played baseball my whole life, so I love watching the MLB. And I love following the MLB, especially the Braves. I'm a huge Braves fan, a Acuna fan, so you'll hear a lot about the Braves on this podcast for sure. I want to go And to just a little highlight real quick, I want to say what I think the Braves should do. I think they should let Donaldson walk. I think they need to trade for Nolan Arenado right here, right now. He may be under contract for 2 or 3 years where he has to opt out, which he'll do. But that's a whole lot better than Donaldson over 4 years, $120 million. It means he's going to be in a Braves uniform when he's like 42, 43. Dude, like, I get it. He's good. And he's a hometown Braves fan, Braves country, whatever you want to call it. However, no, Arenado's a superstar who you can keep him if you want to. You can sign him. You may have to let Freddie Freeman walk, but you can keep Arenado as a Brave, and we're missing a third baseman. Could you imagine the lineup? So I'm gonna have Acuna, Dansby, Ozzie, Freddie, then let's see the outfield. Arenado at third, the outfield. Maybe Ender. I'm not sure who's gonna play center yet, either Acuna or Ender. I hope Markakis isn't back in right, but we got some, Christian Patchy guy who can come in, and I think he's going to be good this year. But I think the Braves need to go get Nolan Arenado right here, right now. Another thing I want my baseball fans to go do, I want you to go on YouTube and type in the Houston Astros cheating scandal. And I want you to watch this embarrassment of an organization. Worst thing I've seen in sports, and it is ridiculous. The Astros cheating scandal, and I'll go ahead and explain. This is one of the worst things I've ever seen as a sports fan, and I despise the Astros organization for this. And I've heard the Red Sox also have something going on of this nature. Worst thing I've seen. I'll go ahead and give you a quick little rundown of what is going on. They're banging against so they have a camera that's watching the signs of the catcher. And they pick up the signs, and they know exactly what pitch is coming as a hitter. And in the dugout, you'll hear bangs against whether it be a bench or a cooler or whatever they're banging against, so the hitter can hear. So, for example, 2 hits on a cooler will mean, okay, the pitcher's throwing a curveball, or 3 hits will mean the pitcher's throwing a changeup, etc. That is the worst thing I've ever seen. Stealing signs is okay in baseball when you do it. Like, you're smart enough to sit there, watch the third base coach, or watch the dugout and see. Or watch the pitcher and be like, he's tipping his pitches. When he throws a curveball, he messes with his glove. Or watch the third base coach when he goes to his ear. They may lay down a bunt. That is one of the best things about baseball, being able to watch and steal the signs and be smarter and more cerebral than the other teams. Using cameras and stuff like that, and that is the worst thing I've ever seen. They should be stripped of not only their AL pennants, division pennants, World Series, stripped of everything. I wouldn't care if they moved the whole organization somewhere else. The Houston Astros are the worst organization and an embarrassment to sports, and I can't stand the Houston Astros. All the players involved, all the players pretty much in the organization, I think should have lifetime bans. Don't bring them back. They have no business being in professional sports, let alone the MLB. I mean, if you want to continue to bash the Houston Astros, we can talk about more about how they brought in Roberto Osuna, who was charged with domestic violence as well. And also look up their assistant GM making a comment to a female reporter also about talking about domestic violence. Just an embarrassment of an organization, and they need the strictest fines. They need to strip them of all titles, kick them out. I don't care. They need to lose draft picks, big money fines, stripped of titles. They need the worst of the worst. I can't stand the Houston Astros. The worst thing I've seen in sports. And it shouldn't be allowed in any professional sport. Just terrible. This one's for my good friend Dakota out there, which is the UFC 246, I believe, this coming up weekend. I'm not a big follower of the UFC, so I can't really get technical in my analysis because I don't know too much. I watch the fights and I'll pick who I think is going to win. Sometimes I'm just like, that dude just looks like I don't want to mess with him. I can only imagine running into him. So I'm just going to give a quick prediction for my McGregor versus Cowboy Cerrone fight. I got McGregor by decision. I don't see him knocking out Cowboy Cerrone. He's a tough dude, even though he's on the back end of his career. Is mainly a reason why I'm picking McGregor. I think it's Cerrone's 36, McGregor's 31. I'm going to go with the younger guy who is just unorthodox kind of fighter. You don't see much like him. So I'm going to go with McGregor to win. That's my prediction. So for my good friend Dakota, once you listen to this, I got McGregor, so you let me know who you got, and I'd love to hear more about it. Speaking of predictions, let's just go ahead and talk about the conference championship predictions. Just a quick thing, which I thought was crazy. I was sitting here thinking the other day after all the games last night, and I'm like, holy crap. Before I watched any games this season, I could still – both of my Super Bowl picks are still out there. Before I watched any games. Now, I know my picks have changed since, but prior to the season started, I said, man, I think the Packers and the Chiefs are going to make the Super Bowl. That's the Super Bowl I've always wanted to see, Rodgers versus Mahomes. The old best quarterback I've seen compared to the new best quarterback I've ever seen. Two of the most talented guys you'll see. And I said that Rodgers would take him down and that, Mahomes will get it in the next year. And how awesome would it be to watch not only them two battle it out this year for a Super Bowl, but then next year face again in the Super Bowl, Mahomes win one and take the throne from him. I think that'd just be awesome stories, awesome legacy, just stuff that you'd be able to talk about for a lifetime. Watching those two guys battle it out on the biggest stage. I really hope that's the Super Bowl this year, Packers versus Chiefs. That is, and next year I'd love to watch it go right back. I thought the Packers this year with the new defense, good secondary, bringing in a lot of guys, got some good pass rushers. I believe Aaron Rodgers is going to have a good year, but that's who I said prior to watching any games this season that would be the Super Bowl. So it's still alive. If it happens, stay tuned. Maybe I'll do something crazy or something. We'll figure it out. I'm going to give more of an analysis after the games on my next podcast, which will be next Monday, which is, I think, let's see. I think it'll be the 19th, something like that. Or let's see, the 20th. So, yeah, January 20th will be my next podcast on a Monday. So, next week, I'm just going to give a couple picks. I'm picking the Packers. I really don't know why. I'm going to pick the Packers over the 49ers, mainly because it's tough to beat a team twice in a row after the way the 49ers beat the Packers. They just dominated them. And I think the 49ers may overlook them. And Rodgers, being from California, coming back home for the second time this season, he's got something to prove. And I think he's going to come out there and have a big game. And I think the Packers are going to win with a lot of a run game, a couple of plays here and here. I think 27-23 Packers. Last, I got the Chiefs versus the Titans. I got the Chiefs ending the Titans' run. Mahomes is the best quarterback in football right now, and I think Henry's going to have a big game, but I think the Chiefs will win at 36-28. Last, I have a fan question real quick, which I was so excited when I finally got a fan question. I haven't gotten any yet, and it's just, it takes time to kind of get interactive with my audience. And man, when I got an email for my first fan question or listener question, it was just awesome. So this one's from Mike Summerford out of Columbus, Georgia. He said, question is, I was wondering what your thoughts were on why current college quarterbacks coming into the league seem to do much better than quarterbacks from, say, 15 or 20 years ago. Quarterbacks in their rookie years seem to throw 12 to 15 interceptions years ago, and it seems as if that isn't the case any longer. I don't think they are better than a Peyton Manning or a Troy Aikman, so what could be the reason? So, Mike, first I want to tell you thank you so much for your question. Awesome. I'm so happy that I got a question, and awesome question. So I saw it last night, and I was like, I'm going to let it marinate. I'm not going to look up any information because I want my answer to be authentic. So personally, I think it is more of a systems. I think you'll see a lot of spread offenses nowadays, and the field being more spread out. The completions are a lot easier, short throws. The throws are more open because the field is so spread out, and it's just there's not really. Another thing is, I think kids have so much time growing up learning these systems and perfecting the position of being a quarterback that you don't see that's just what they practice for. So practice makes perfect. So you get enough practice, hey, I can't throw the ball there. However, what I think you do see a lot of interceptions still. So you don't hear about them as often. You hear more of the big stories, such as, for example, Lamar Jackson and stuff this year. You didn't see Danny Dimes. He threw a good amount of interceptions. Also, Baker Mayfield in year 2. Oof. I agree. Kyler Murray wasn't a good standout player this year. I think it's more of a system thing rather than any more talent. Because I agree with you, there are no Peyton Mannings or Troy Aikmans. They don't breed many of those. So I appreciate the question, Mike, and send in more of your questions. I'd love to hear about them. I want to end the show with first, I want to challenge any of my listeners out there to come challenge me for this belt right here, boy. I will put it up. I'm telling you, this is the belt, the championship belt right here. Come debate me for this belt. I challenge any of my listeners out there. You can choose the topics, or I can come up with the topics. We can email, text, whatever, come up with topics that fit both of us or just you, and we can debate for that belt. And you come on here live, and we can debate head on head for the debate belt. So contact me at sportspantomaths@gmail.com. You can also send us messages, whether it be on Instagram, which is at sportspantomaths, Twitter, it can at sportspantomath1, Facebook, we are at Sports Pantomaths Podcast, and like and subscribe this on YouTube. That's really, I'd love for you to like and subscribe. That's where you can kind of, comment live while I'm, streaming these videos, and I can see them over there, and I can comment. I can talk about your questions or your comments right here live on YouTube while you're listening. So give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. That is Sports Pantomaths. Have fun watching the national championship game tonight and enjoy it. This is going to be one for the ages. And tune in next Monday as Sports Pantomaths has its newest episode. Thank you so much.